improve funding for our public schools, an end to high-stakes testing, and local control of schools. Our members have attended every meeting of the OEIB, and before that, the Governor's Investment Team meetings. We have testified 3 times to the board. We've seen the major failures of this top-down, secretive, consultant-driven planning effort up close and personal. It has not been pretty. The educational funding team now says it will not recommend increasing basic funding for our schools in the 2013-15 biennium. Instead, it recommends state-directed strategic investments that rest on the arrogant assumption that the state and its expensive team of administrators know more than local boards, teachers, and administrators about how to improve learning for children. Yeah. The scheme has 3 fatal flaws. 1, it will drain even more money from basic school funding. It will create new and untried state-run bureaucratic structures like regional centers and hubs. 2, it will launch radical changes and reductions in how we fund programs for special needs children. We know that these programs cost more, but the funding team chooses to ignore this and seeks to continue to cut costs. 3, the team will provide competitive grant funding to a favored few school districts, which will mean more consultants, more private contractors, and this will steal more money from our basic school funding. We can only guess the reasoning for this since the meetings were held in secret, so I'll end with this. Why were these meetings not open to the public?
My name is John Burns. I'm from the Beaverton area, parent of 2, and I've been a businessman with more than 30 years of either corporate office experience or as a business owner. I also am a member of Oregon Save Our Schools. The funding team, in coming up with this proposal, has apparently drunk the Kool-Aid regarding the idea of outcomes-based funding. You'll hear it over and over again. I've listened to Dr. Crew. We need a market approach. The state will be the buyer of the outcomes and the schools will be the seller of the outcomes. Again, 30 years of scar tissue. What I hear is a buzzword narrative from consulting economists and data wonks who have no real-world experience with the large employee groups delivering these kinds of services.
That's right. Yep.
I own a data company. I've seen a dozen buzzword must-dos in the last decade. None of them are of any significance today. Constantly honing my fundamentals is what has kept my company afloat and successful. Here's the truth. The kind of outcomes-based funding that the funding team recommends has never been tried at the state level anywhere. I don't want to fund a laboratory. I want to fund proven practices. The OEIB has been told by their own staff analysts that this is true. So the idea is just that, an untested ideology, not a proven practice. But having met in secret until now, the funding team says, let's go, let's rush into this. They're looking for outcomes within a year that with due caution might take years. Funding team says we'll see efficiencies, and we saw that in Dr. Crew's description up front. Efficiency is code for here comes another funding cut. As Alan said, to fund all these other things, you're going to take off the pot of funding that our legislators look at as being all related to education.
2 minutes, sir.
Okay. There's an old warning in business. Consultants are prone to make the analysis support the opinion of the corner office. These consultants have done that. They've given the governor sound bites.
I'm Tom Olson. I'm a retired great-grandfather of 18 great-grandkids, and that's my Oregon Save Our Schools, because I fear my grandchildren will have an education that wasn't even as broad as the one I had. We've recently discovered the true investments already made by the Governor, Rudy Crew, and the Investment Board. They've spent millions on new state bureaucratic staff and a variety of consultants and private firms who are mostly number crunchers, marketing experts, and economists who've written these plans that were cooked up, as mentioned earlier, in private meetings not open to the public. Virtually none of the consultants had any first-line experience working in public schools. The state has already obligated more than $2 million this year to create a new state bureaucracy. For example, at the top of his unusually high salary of $280,000 plus extraordinary benefits, Rudy Crew now has hired a chief of staff, a policy advisor, a budget and data analysis, a strategic initiatives director, an executive assistant, an office manager, and a board administrator. It's good to be the king, as Mel Brooks said. Salaries you might be interested in range from $135,000, $107,000, $118,000, $107,000 for those positions that I just mentioned. But wait, there's more. Now the funding team proposes adding even more research and development state staff for the state-directed initiatives. And you should examine the contract of the consultants who wrote the funding team report. Consultant payments of up to $300 an hour. Divorce attorneys don't make that. If the governor claims his plan will create so much more flexibility for local districts, why is this bloated and expanding state staff necessary? Why?
2 minutes. Why?
I'm Rex Havens. I'm a retired educator. Also, I don't have quite that many great-grandchildren, but I got one. And I've devoted my life since retirement to advocating for schools. And I am here to protest. I am here to protest this process. I think we've seen an example right here tonight. Look at all you people out there. And who's up here? Thank you, Hannah. Nice to see a member of the board here. We see Dr. Crew on TV or whatever that is. I think there's a basic misunderstanding that exists in these folks of the difference between teaching and learning. Some people think teaching is presenting information and having people absorb it. You heard Hannah say learning requires listening. So learning together would be nice. It's hard to do when people don't show up and just ask you to do it on the floor. So let me just close with this. I've been an advocate of higher order thinking, creativity, project-based learning, hands-on learning, engaged stuff my whole life. I am very much aware of the damage that's being done by the narrowing of the curriculum to only a bunch of tests on standardized scores. People would have us believe that that's the important thing. What are we communicating to our administrators, teachers, and parents? We're communicating that the only metrics of education excellence that matter are math and reading tests. This is a lie. Thank you.
Good evening, I'm Deborah Barnes and I am the OEA First Region Vice President, but tonight I come as the North Clackamas Education Association President. 4 years ago we had 1,100 teachers in the North Clackamas School District. Today we have 720. 4 years ago we had 15 cut days. 15 days where we can't be with our students. I really want to thank Hannah for being here tonight because it really is important that we have educators on the OEIB that actually live what we have to live with every single day. And tonight she's shown again that she's here supporting us. I want to make this quick. A couple of weeks ago, Rudy Crew was invited to speak in front of the Clackamas County Education Forum. Rudy Crew was invited to stay to listen to comments from 275 educators, parents, school board members, and lawmakers. Rudy Crew came before that group, spoke and told us all, get over it. You're going to work harder and you're not going to be promised any more money. Did he stay and listen to the comments of the parents, the teachers, the school board members? The only thing I can say about Rudy Crew right now is thank you, Rudy, for getting the school boards to actually be on the same page with educators, our youth, and our parents. Next time you want to talk to educators about funding education, you already have a plan. It's called the Quality Education Model. Start funding
it. Ladies and gentlemen, I am a teacher. front, but if we don't lower class sizes, give teachers more time to think and plan, upgrade technology and deal with student issues, everything from poverty and abuse to mental health and learning English, we can't hope to offer all children an excellent education. I represent high school teachers who are way too busy to come talk to you. I see my students in groups of 32 to 38, 2 or 3 times a week, sometimes with 5 days between classes if their attendance is perfect. I do my best to teach them to speak, read, write, and listen to French. If I could devote 10 minutes per child per week to assessment outside of class, it would take 34 of the 37 and a half hours I'm paid for. But how much can a teacher do in 10 minutes anyway? Think about the papers I don't correct, the oral language production I don't coach, the one-on-one time I don't spend with each of the 202 amazing kids I have the honor of teaching. The most important thing a teacher does is to cultivate relationships with students. But whom should I choose? I can think of a dozen or 2 extremely talented students who could really flourish if I had time to nurture their specific talents and interests. I can also think of a dozen or 2 students who for one reason or another aren't flourishing and who need me to figure out why. Ladies and gentlemen, I am here to celebrate the education professionals, the teachers, the custodians, etc., who try to bring the love of learning to children under these conditions. I'm here to reflect the Oregon Education Investment Board that the Oregon legislature figured out what an adequate education costs. We currently fund schools a little over half of what we know to be the minimum necessary. I'm here to tell you we only have 2 choices. Find adequate resources, or do yet another round of rearranging deck chairs on the Titanic.
My name is Jean Trowbridge, and I'm a 2nd grade teacher at Alder Elementary in the Reynolds School District. I believe that any of these recommendations will do a lick of good when class sizes are as large as they are. Word from Dr. Rudy Crew's September message to the Portland City Club. Teachers must be able to engage with students, show affection, and give one-on-one contact. A teacher can't do that with a huge number of students. They just can't. Thank you, Dr. Crew. I couldn't have said it better myself. I teach 2nd grade in a focus school. I have 32 students in my class. That is a huge number of students. I propose that the state of Oregon do something that classroom teachers are expected to do every day, regardless of the number of students in their classrooms: differentiate. It is documented that small class sizes provide a better learning environment for those students most at risk for not meeting goals: students of color, students living in poverty, and ELL students. In my classroom, 18 of my 32 students are ELL. 24 of my 32 students are minority. 27 of my 32 students are eligible for free and reduced lunch. I propose that the state of Oregon differentiate the allocation of resources and bring down class sizes and focus on priority schools. At my school, that would either require redrawn school boundaries, because with 670 students in kindergarten through 5th grade, there isn't any more space in the building. Or it would require building and staffing fully operational portables. Either option would require a huge effort, but I suggest that you check in with my students and ask them how they are handling sharing one teacher with 31 classmates. These students have huge needs, and they deserve an honest, equitable response to their needs. So back to Dr. Crew's statement. A teacher can't do that with a huge number of students. They just can't. Is the state of Oregon going to label me a bad teacher in June because each and every one of my 32 students did not show the growth they deserve to experience, but cannot achieve due to the lack of support from the state?
Good evening and welcome, and I'd like to welcome everybody. My name is Greg Belisle, and I'm co-chair of the Portland Public School Board. So I'd like to welcome you, our guests, and thank you for being here this evening. I just want to acknowledge that Portland Public Schools is committed to the goals outlined by OEIB, Dr. Crew, and the education funding team. In fact, many of our investments are already aligned. You can go ahead and hiss and go with that. And I want to thank the education funding team actually for acknowledging that resources have not been matched to corresponding levels of state investment. I think that's a move in the right direction. We also like to applaud and acknowledge that there is a pattern where students of color, low-income students, and students whose native language isn't English find themselves at perpetual disadvantage. These are important things to make visible and to address. We'd also like to acknowledge the many ways that our work already is aligned with the work and the goals that the OEIB has put forward, including investing in increased third grade reading, as well as bridging transitions. Ninth grade counts was called out in the EFT report as something we would like to expand. We would like to expand opportunities in summer and supports for our students to keep them on track to graduate, as well as into 10th grade. In addition, we think focusing on early childhood is absolutely a significant investment, but we also want to remind folks that currently the state does not fund the second half day of a full day of kindergarten, and we think that's right. In order to build on effective early K programs, we need to have that additional funding. And lastly, I want to call out our work at Jefferson Middle College, where we have not only dual credit, but where we have, we have worked with Portland Community College to have students taking classes at both of those, and I personally think that it's the future of education, and I appreciate any additional support that we can make that a systemic approach across all school districts in the state. Those are just some of the ways. And lastly, I want to call out what some of our principals told us at our Monday school board meeting when we asked them what would be most effective, and what we heard was, what we heard was that other teachers there coaching for effective practice was an important thing. So we call them school improvement specialists and interventionalists, folks to help teachers do the targeted intervention that they know that currently with class sizes they can't get to. With that, again, thank you for being here, and thank you all for being here.
My name's Reese Scholes, and my son is a junior at Cleveland High School. Today's voters are yesterday's public school students. Our generation's education was generously supported by taxpayers, but now we have turned our backs on the students of today. In 1990, the combined tax rate in Portland was $33.50 per thousand on real market value. Last year, the combined rate was $22.26 on assessed value, about 60% of market value. A smart fifth grader can tell you we're paying less than half of what we paid in 1990, and school funding is $3 billion short. Check the taxes of a house on Northeast Roosevelt, where I first lived in Portland. It had a market value of $225,000 and an assessed value of $20,000. That's 9%. They pay less than $500 in property taxes. Beast Restaurant on Northeast 30th has a fixed price menu, and dinner for two with wine and tip costs $264, but their annual property taxes are only $262 because their assessed value is 5% of their market value. But some houses in this neighborhood are paying on 100% of their market value. It's not fair, and there are solutions. Why aren't our leaders talking about this? It's because public opinion polls show that voters don't like the solutions, because they don't understand them, because our leaders aren't talking about them, because the polls show they aren't popular. You see the loop there? It's strangling our schools. We're really good at not talking about things. It used to be that we didn't talk about child sexual abuse, for example. A Portland mayor sexually abused a young girl in the basement of her own home while his driver, a Portland police officer, waited outside at the curb. But nobody talked about it.
2 minutes, sir.
The victims of school funding crisis are many. People willing to talk about reforming property tax limitation are few. Some of you may think this is not your responsibility. The police officer at the curb felt the same way. Let's talk about it. Let's fix it. We need more money for schools. That's every one of my
I'm Hyung Nam. I'm a high school social studies teacher in Portland. And I'm just outraged that we're not talking about the fact that we're in crisis right now. High school teachers in Portland and in Beaverton have a workload of 180 to 250 students. We have to write college recommendations for students. We have to grade their essays. This is impossible to do. And to say that you expect outcomes and then to want to spend $50 million to collect data when under these crisis situations, we know what the outcomes are going to be. With this 40-40-20, you say that you want more kids to go to college. We have a crisis right now with student debt. College tuition and fees have been going up year after year. Oregon is at the bottom of in the country, in the bottom 5 as far as funding per student for higher education. We spend less per student for higher education now than we did 15 years ago. If we're talking about 21st century, sending more kids to college, make it affordable. When I looked on page 17 here at the strategic investment essential skills for global success, it talks about how the system suffers both financial and human costs with the inflexible and siloed approaches to delivering learning. It's not about delivering learning, it is about educating students. And right now the problem is the funding and this idea to push online courses when we have all these private corporations that are in the business of making profits on education, and there's no data that this is actually effective. Just sitting kids in front of computers rather than having teachers and reasonable workloads and class sizes is not going to do it. So please do not waste this money on this kind of ridiculousness.
Campus president for the Extended Learning Campus, the Southeast Campus at Portland Community College, which is just down the road at 82nd and Division. As you may know, Portland Community College serves over 95,000 students a year, from Scappoose to Newburgh, from East Portland to Forest Grove. PCC is the largest educational institution in the state of Oregon. And Southeast Extended Learning Campus, where I'm from, serves 40,000 of those students, a great majority of which are in workforce programs. The board of directors, the campus presidents, and the faculty at Portland Community College are committed to the idea of access, but also embrace fully the mission of success. We've implemented a new completion investment approach in which we incorporate wraparound services to get students from registration all the way through completion and then contemplating the next steps for success, either academically or in their careers. PCC is very, very nimble, as evidenced by our leveraging of community partnerships. However, in the last 5 years, despite a 40% increase in enrollments, we've seen a 25% decrease in state support. In order to continue toward the goal of 40-40-20, we are asking for your support of a $510 million support fund. PCC currently has 8,000 student FTEs, for which we receive no reimbursement from the state. And we need to be on the front lines of continuing to expand opportunities for students in career and technical programs. Not every student. Not every student is interested or available or able to attend a four-year school, and we want to continue to build on the promise of providing career pathway opportunities for all students. Finally, across the PCC district, we're excited about the future, beginning to build out of what the bond voters supported, a $372 million bond levy a few years ago. 2 minutes, ma'am. I encourage you to keep the legislative support of capital projects for community colleges. Southeast Center, which is the cornerstone of economic development for this region, is having a groundbreaking celebration on October 30th. I invite everyone in the room to attend, and I have some flyers for you.
Good evening, and thank you for this opportunity to address the board this evening. My name is Deborah Hall, and I've been working for Portland Community College since 1998. I'm also the president of the Federation for Classified Employees, AFT Local 3922. My history with PCC actually started in 1968 when my mother was taking classes when I was 8 years old, and I would travel up the hill with her every week to class. At that time, I was endeared to PCC because they I feel recognized in me what my potential was and started molding me, working with me. And I've been very happy to work with them as an adult. In my job at PCC, let me go back to the classified. We represent approximately 755 professionals across the PCC district. Our members are committed to doing our part to step up and help with student success. However, in the support services areas that students often need, these are often the first positions that are cut during challenging economic times. So we're asking for your support in the budget request to the legislature that puts us back on the road to success. If PCC looks to the next 2-year budget in order to meet the challenges of 40-40-20, we have to keep our commitment to funding the middle 40 with job training and 2-year degrees. I work at PCC at the Klein Center, which stands for Continuous Learning for Management, Business, and Professionals in the Professional Development and Training Department. Klein is truly on the forefront of putting folks back to work and helping businesses and workers get the training and skills they need to compete in a 21st century economy. Excuse me, I have to stare at issue. In addition to targeted workforce training and professional development, PCC Klein also houses the Small Business Development Center, which is working every day with entrepreneurs to help them, launch their businesses locally and globally, and to scale up by hiring and training local workers. We also have a very active and robust health professionals department, from entry-level training to continuing education units for working professionals.
2 minutes, ma'am.
Thank you very much. In closing, I would just like, as we focus on the 40-40-20, I hope that you will recognize the importance and responsibility we have to provide opportunities to low-income Oregonians and students of color. And I invite you all to the Klein Center for a tour to meet our students, instructors, and classified staff. And please support reinvestment in post-secondary education and workforce training program. Thank you.
Frank Gillard, Patrick People, Jeremy Sell.